Welcome, Pewter Report readers and listeners, to another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. I am Scott Reynolds. Alongside me is Matt Matera. And as you see on the screen there, folks, Bucs training camp has begun. And myself and Matt were out there at training camp Sunday and Monday. And we're going to be talking about that for the next hour or so. And Matt, it's not even just training camp we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking to Washington football head coach Jimmy Lake.
That's right. What an awesome guest to get to start off this training camp. As you said, we just had 2 days in a row, but Jimmy Lake is he very well knows a lot of the players on this Bucs roster, most notably Vita Vea and the first round pick Joe Tryon. So great to have an awesome guest like this to start off training camp.
Yeah, he'll be joining us about 4:10 Eastern time here. If you're listening to this podcast live, you know that it's Monday, July 26th. If you're not, it is Monday, July 26th. And we're going to be talking about the first 2 days of training camp. And Joe Tryon really impressed out of the gate. We'll get to Joe in a couple minutes, but you know, some big news kind of right off the bat. This safety position has been kind of shell shocked with a lack of bodies. We saw Jordan Whitehead, Matt, start camp on the COVID reserve list, coming off of that shoulder injury, and of course that wiped out his White House trip and the
ring ceremony.
Yeah. And now we find out today Antoine Winfield wasn't out there. Let's get a little soundbite from Bruce Arians here as to why.
In more than a week or two?
We have to get Antoine tested positive, but today he tested negative, so we think it's a false positive. So that's the problem right now. These false positives, they're missing 2 days. And a couple of them are safety, so we just wait and see.
So the volume was a little low there, so apologies if you couldn't hear the volume there. But because of social distancing and the COVID protocols, we have to be a good amount of feedback from Coach when he is speaking. But pretty much what Coach Arians was saying was that Antoine Winfield Jr. had a false positive. So he practiced the day before on Sunday, but I guess after practice, he tested positive for COVID. Right. He tested in the morning and he tested negative. So it was a false positive, or at least that's what they think so far. He'll test again and we'll see what happens with there. But they think it's a false positive. But nonetheless, Winfield was not able to practice today. And as you were saying, Scott, the Bucs are running out of bodies to put at safety. They are ravaged, like you said. Jordan Whitehead, Raven Green has not been available. Yeah. So they've had to really mix things around at the safety position just 2 days into training camp.
Yeah, so both starters were out. And really what that did was that put Mike Edwards in as the starting strong safety. They put Javon Hagan, who was a player that was really the fourth safety on the team last year, didn't get a lot of playing time on defense. That was mostly Mike Edwards getting in the rotation as the third safety. And really Winfield and Whitehead were healthy throughout the entire season. Only Whitehead had that shoulder injury in the Green Bay game, in the NFC Championship game. There's Javon Hagan. So Hagan was a starter in addition to Edwards. And then you had Ross Cockrell for the second day, moving from cornerback. He saw some reps at free safety, but without Raven Green, without Antoine Winfield Jr., without Jordan Whitehead, I mean, they're down 3 safeties, and they only have, I think, 7 or 8 on the team, Matt.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up the NFC Championship game because it shows just how important depth is, and especially for the safety position, that in the second half of that NFC Championship game, the Bucs were down to Edwards and Andrew Adams, who is now in Philadelphia, I believe. I mean, it's gotten so slim pickings at the safety position that they literally signed a corner in the middle of training camp yesterday. That doesn't happen too much. You sign a player right in the middle of it. It's Chris Cooper out of Stony Brook. So all of a sudden, the Bucs have become a pipeline to Stony Brook University, which is out on Long Island. They obviously signed Augie Contressa, who was a undrafted free agent. So now they have 2 safeties coming from Stony Brook to go along with the North Texas pipeline and James Madison, of course, as well.
Yes,
that the Bucs have all of a sudden become a pipeline to.
And South Carolina too. South Carolina, I think, has got 5 players on this team. Jerrell Adams is one of those newcomers, along with Sedarius Hutchinson.
Yeah.
And Donnell Stanley, of course, Ryan Suckup is a Gamecock as well. So it's interesting. The pipeline back when I used to start covering this team in the 90s was Florida State, Miami. And now those schools are hardly represented. It's like the schools we've just mentioned here, some of the more obscure schools that are really feeding this Buccaneer team. But speaking of feeding, Matt, have you tried the fast protein bars from Celsius? These are absolutely outstanding. There's two flavors. There's the salted caramel peanut crunch, and then there's the cookies and cream. And I'd like to say I have a favorite, but I go back and forth. These are the only two flavors they have. Honestly, it's the only two flavors they need. If you've tried Celsius, you know it's a quality product. It's a fantastic energy drink that gives you the boost of energy that you need. There's a peach vibe you're rocking, Matt. I had a tropical vibe today.
Oh, yeah.
And there's no crash. That's the great thing about this. Well, with these fast protein bars, the first thing I'm going to talk about is how delicious they are. I have had so many protein bars that taste like sawdust or cardboard, and these actually taste good. If you don't believe me, try them for yourself. That's what I want you to do. 20 grams of protein, low sugar, low carbs, no GMOs. It's the Fast brand, living an active lifestyle. It's at the core of who Celsius and Fast is, and their goal is to support a better you every day.
And you know what, Scott? There's a lot of things too. I know in years past in training camp, sometimes depending on, when I'm getting ready in the morning, I'll just have a granola bar and, that's my breakfast for the morning. I've now changed that up a little bit where I'm getting like a full meal. But sometimes you get these granola bars and they just like disintegrate in your hand as you're trying to eat it. You got grains going all over the place.
Yeah.
This is not the case with these bars. I got a big sweet tooth. I'm a sucker for the cookies and cream.
I know.
I mean, it's delicious. I pack granola bars in my backpack now, so I'm ready to go. I'm feeling all the vibes when I go to training camp because I eat one of those granola bars or one of those bars, and I'm good to go for the rest of the day. I mean, Celsius, they just make it doesn't matter if it's an energy drink, if it's a bar, it's product after product. They hit home runs when it comes.
They really
to
do. The fast protein bars, they're available on Amazon. You can get a variety pack. It's got 3 salted caramel peanut crunch. It's got 3 white chocolate cookies and cream. Make sure you go to Amazon. And if you like it, go ahead and make sure that you tell them. Leave a review on Amazon. They love to hear feedback from their audience. So fast bars, get them. They taste really good too. They taste like candy bars, to be honest with you, but they're not. They're
very, one last thing too. Just we love all the fans that send us pictures and that they're trying Celsius. I personally love when we get fans from outside of the Tampa area. They're like, "Oh, hey, I'm in North Carolina. They got Celsius here. Hey, I'm in New York. We got Celsius." We love when you guys do that. Please keep sending us photos, videos, whatever when you see Celsius. We love seeing that you guys are getting involved, and please keep doing it because our fans are awesome.
Absolutely. Also, too, if you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to our Pewter Report TV YouTube channel and hit the like button on our videos. We appreciate that as well. Okay, Matt. So today was an absolute scorcher of a practice. There was no wind, there was no clouds, there was no shade, no rest for the wicked. It was hot, and right around 9:30, right around that part where they had the water break, that's when you saw the players drop to their knees. That's where you saw trainers come over with wet towels, put them around their neck. Mm-hmm. This was a brutal 9:30 to 10:30 stretch. That second half of practice, Matt, Bruce Arians was really talking about the fatigue setting, and he didn't like it because this team needs to get used to the heat and the humidity. 2 days into camp, it's kind of expected, but it was an inferno out there today, one Buc place. At the Advent Health Training Center.
Yeah, it was really hot at the Advent Health Training Center. It was actually something funny that Tristan Wirfs brought up in his post-practice press conference. It's a lot of P's right there. They were asking about the heat and everything. He just stopped and he said, "Look at the flags. There's no breeze or anything. Yeah. They're just standing still." It is it's pretty crazy what they have to go through. And Coach Arians was saying, he said, "I liked the first half of practice, but the last 30 minutes, he said it was really bad." He said he was very disappointed. He said the first group was not that good, and he said the second group was even worse than that. And it's funny because a lot of the players we spoke to after, even Levante David, he's one of the longest tenured Buccaneers
on
the current roster. And he said, I've been here this long, and I'm still not used to it. And Levante's a guy from Miami. So like he grew up in the Florida heat. He said even like going northern, the temperature and the weather is different than that. Donovan Smith said something really interesting too. Actually, I'll get to Donovan in a second. Shaq Barrett, first of all, shout out to him because he wears a hoodie when he plays. And that's just unbelievable because you and I are sweating literally just standing there or taking a knee and watching. He's going out trying to attack the quarterback and make plays. But he had a really great line, and I'm paraphrasing here. He pretty much said that he wears the hoodie because it makes it a little tougher now, but it'll make it a little bit easier when the season goes on. So he was saying he loses like 3 pounds. Donovan Smith said that there's been times where he's lost 10 pounds in water weight.
Yep.
But then, it's all about hydration and bringing it back. Exactly. So it's crazy to see how, you really got to keep your body ready and good to go for this season with this heat.
Exactly. Well, right now we got a special guest we're going to bring in. This guy right here, Jimmy Lake. I've known him. He's had 2 stints with the Buccaneers as a defensive backs coach with Raheem Morris, with John Gruden. He is a guy that has had played a huge role in the Buccaneers' secondary success, and then he decided to go out to Washington, where he was the defensive backs coach, defensive coordinator. Now he's the head coach of the Washington Huskies. Jimmy Lake, how are you doing?
Hey, what's up, guys? Great to see you, Scott. Man, it's been a long time. Yeah, I'm actually out here in Los Angeles, California, Hollywood to be exact. We're down here for the Pac-12 Media Days. All the head coaches and athletic directors are down here for 2 days, the big showcase event for the Pac-12. So we have a meeting here coming up at 2 o'clock Pacific time, but had to show some Tampa Bay Buccaneer love today.
Thanks for coming on, Coach. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Coach, this is Matt Matera. He's been with us for a couple of years. And, you and I, we talked about this guy right here, Joe Tryon. He ended up being the first-round draft pick. I interviewed you before the draft. I told you we were going to put him in the mock at number 32 for the Buccaneers. And sure enough, Coach, that's exactly what happened. He became a Buccaneer. Did that surprise you at all? Because this Buccaneer team has shown a lot of Husky love lately with Vita Vea in the first round in 2017, Benning Potowahi, and then Jaden Mickens. Now you add another one, Joe Tryon, to Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I love it. You guys are going to love Joe. Just like I told you, you're going to love Vita. It's a guy that has a tremendous work ethic. He has great size, as I'm sure you guys saw in person. I mean, he's very long, very strong, very athletic, loves football. We pride ourselves on recruiting guys that love football, and I think that's why management there in Tampa Bay loves to look at Huskies. We pride ourselves on guys that love to play the game, that are passionate about the game, but also have NFL attributes. And Joe Tryon definitely has some NFL attributes that you guys come game day.
Yeah, when you look at Tryon, I mean, he didn't play for you guys last year. And Coach, what I want to share with the audience now is when I was watching him today, this is the second practice in Bucs training camp now, no pads. But his get off, his pad level, it's almost perfect right now. And he's a big, long, lean guy, kind of like Jason Pierre-Paul. I think physically they kind of measure up pretty well.
Yeah, they do. I totally agree with that. I mean, to bring a guy in with his measurables, his work ethic, with some guys that are veterans that have been around the game for a while, I know Joe, he is just soaking up every bit of knowledge from those players and also from the tremendous coaching staff that you guys have. You guys, the Tampa Bay fan base should be very, very excited about Joe Tryon.
And Coach, he gets to come in and not have the pressure that most first-round draft picks have to endure. He doesn't have to start. They already have Shaq Barrett and Jason Pierre-Paul. He can come in as a designated pass rusher and play some special teams as a rookie. That takes a lot of pressure off of him. I think he's going to be able to come in fresh because he's not going to play as many snaps as Shaq and JPP. And when you're going up against an offensive tackle in the third quarter in this sweltering, hot and humid Florida, down here in Tampa, and Joe's fresh and the tackle's not in the third quarter, I think sacks are going to happen.
I totally agree with you, and I haven't thought about that angle. Of course, you cover these guys every single day. That's a great point. I think back to the defensive end that we drafted way back when, and Gaines Adams, if you remember way back. And there was a lot of pressure on him. Who's going to be the next Simeon Rice? Who's going to be that next great pass rusher off the edge? And it takes time for these guys to develop. And, at the NFL level, or even at this level, there's not a lot of patience. Everybody wants success right now. So that's a great point. That's a great point that he's got all these veterans around him that obviously are already all pros and are playing at a high level. And I do know this: Joe's not going to sit back and just wait. I do know that he's going to be chomping at the bit to play, and he's going to be pushing to play very early, which will mean a really successful defense for you guys once again.
Coach, what stood out to you about Joe when when you were first scouting him or when he first joined the team? What jumped out to you about him?
Well, in recruiting him, he wasn't a highly sought after recruit. Everybody, always attached these stars to these guys' name, which I don't enjoy that part of it. But what we really loved was his attributes that he had. We saw that he had a tremendous work ethic, and he had the length, and we felt we had the frame to put some weight on. And so, you can't teach 6'6", 6'5", whatever he is, almost 6'6", 6'6", definitely with cleats on. And then what set out was his work ethic, and you see what he's done to his body. His body just looks like a Greek god. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Look at that.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
And so, you combine somebody with that type of size, that type of frame, and then that work ethic. Now you got something special, and a guy that loves football. And Joe is definitely that. And I know Tampa Bay management knows this, but we have a bunch of other guys on our team on offense and defense that have the same work ethic as him and that have NFL attributes like him. So I would not be surprised for your organization to dip back into the University of Washington. You get some more Huskies down there.
I'll tell you what, Coach, this guy right here, right? I mean, we're talking about, your next Joe Tryon, Zion Tupelo Fatui, right? In 3 games. I mean, Coach, with COVID, you only got to coach 4. I think you were with 3-1 in your debut season.
That's correct.
And you only had Zion for 3 games, and this guy had 7 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, 1 fumble recovery, and a pass defense. I think that he almost either helped produce an interception or just a pass breakup. But I mean, that's a great season for some guys. This Zion kid, I guess they call him ZTF. I mean, he did that in 3 games. What's he going to do for you in 12 this year?
Right. So Zion is another guy that was not a highly sought after recruit. He's someone that we found in Hawaii, was actually a volleyball player. And you could see with his feet and his nimbleness and his athleticism, how that game really allowed him to play at such a low level with his height. And so here's a 6'4" and change, almost 6'5", and now he's up to 280. When we recruited him, he was about low 230. And he is extremely hard to, very, very powerful. He did have an injury this offseason, so he's going to miss the beginning of the season, but we'll get him back towards the end. But he's another player that I know. I've already got a bunch of phone calls from NFL execs asking about his status and whether he's going to come out or not after the 2021 season.
Yeah. Jimmy, when I spoke to you back in 2017 about this guy right here, Vita Vea, I mean, he was the Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year, his final season for you, when you were the defensive coordinator calling the plays. And, you told me he's just scratching the surface. This guy was a high school running back who doesn't have a lot of reps at defensive tackle, doesn't have a lot of game experience. But like you said, you can't coach, 6'4", 340 pounds. I mean, he is agile. He is unblockable. And you saw you're a Tampa Bay fan at heart, what he was able to do just coming back for those last 2 games, the NFC Championship game, and really help pushing the pocket and having Aaron Rodgers run into the likes of Shaq Barrett 3 times and Jason Pierre-Paul a couple times. And then in the Super Bowl, forcing Mahomes to escape the pocket and make difficult throws on the run. He was a vital cog in the Bucs Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, what a tremendous player. Great pickup again by you guys. And you can see all these guys you're showing are high football character. Vita fought back from a horrific injury. To some players wouldn't even come back with that type of injury. They wouldn't put the work in to get back, and Vita put the work in to get back, and then obviously was a huge part of securing that Super Bowl trophy. But I know that fan base has got to be excited to have those two players with high football character, tremendous size, tremendous work ethic, guys that have chip on their shoulders. They weren't these 5-star, 10-star recruits. These are guys that developed and worked hard and have all the successes that they are enjoying now, they earned. Yeah. And you're going to see that those guys are never going to stop working.
Yeah, Scott, as you just mentioned before, that Vita used to be a running back. Coach, I mean, when you have a player that big, he's a mountain of a man, but the fact that he's so quick and agile, I mean, you can't even compare it to like any other player you've seen in football, can you?
I cannot. I remember Scott and I talking about this before. I was like, I haven't seen a guy like this. Most guys his size, they're just going to plug the A gap, and then that's about it. You're not going to get out of him, but he could definitely stop a goal line play or a 4th-and-1 play. This guy's going to give you rush. He can get off blocks. If he gets knocked down, he's going to get on his feet. I mean, one of his most impressive plays, and I know the scouts loved it when he was getting drafted, was our Fiesta Bowl game against Penn State.
Yes.
He was the shield on our punt team, and he ran all the way down the field about 60 yards and tackled the punt returner.
Yeah.
And then another play was against USC when he chased down a screen, and our catapult tracker that we had on, he was clocked in at 22 miles an hour at 350.
That's insane.
It's insane.
It's unbelievable.
And a lot of that's hard. Obviously he's got some great attributes, but it's also heart and the want to do that. Some players don't want to be on punt team. They don't want to sacrifice, what they do on defense or offense for special teams. Yeah. But Vita, Joe, and ZTF, Zion, who hopefully lands down there with you guys, those guys are high football character guys. They're going to do whatever it takes to win football games. Just
you talk about the high character. He didn't have to come back. He was placed in injured reserve. He had a fractured ankle right against the Chicago Bears on Thursday night early in the season, but he diligently came back because he wanted to. He wanted to, and there was no assurances that he was going to play the rest of this year, but. That Bruce Arians said, you know what, we're going to try to do our part, which is, get deep in the playoffs. You do your part by rehabbing, and we'll see if those roads converge. And they sure did. But it was that diligent work ethic to battle back for those last 2 games that they were just huge for the Bucs.
No question. And, I even go back when he was with us, he could have left after his redshirt sophomore year. Yeah. And we talked through him. He had second round grade. And then a lot of people were like, hey, you're just scratching the surface. You could come back here and be a top 10, top 15 pick. A lot of players, they would have heard second round pick and they'd have been out the door.
Right.
But he also had some unfinished business here at the University of Washington, want to come back, want to win a championship and all those things. And so that just goes to, his unselfish, behavior. And same thing with him getting injured there and not just saying, I'm on IR, I'm making money anyway. Right. No, he fought back to come back there and play and to make sure you guys made it to the Super Bowl and took home that Super Bowl trophy. Yeah, dude, you were a very interested observer. I think you told me you had your kids in the Rondé Barber jerseys watching the game, right?
There you go.
We did. And then my wife bought a Tom Brady pop-up like cardboard. Like we had Tom Brady pop up in our living room. So it was awesome. My kids, my youngest son was born there in Tampa in 07. I never forget John Gruden. He gave me some pretty good stuff about me leaving the draft meetings early to go see my final son born, but he was just ribbing me a little bit. Yeah. But my youngest son born in Tampa. We still have a house down there in Tampa. My twin brother is still there in Tampa selling boats out there. And out in Clearwater. So make sure you need a boat. Go see Jason Lake, my twin brother. He's out there.
I will take you up on that for sure.
Clearwater. So,
love to go fishing.
We love Tampa. We love the area, and we're so proud that they won the Super Bowl. And going to challenge again for it again this year.
I know.
We got everybody back. So got some awesome leadership and a great coaching staff.
Jimmy, before we let you go, we appreciate your time. 2 things. We have a question here from one of our regular Pewter Report podcast viewers. In Jimmy's opinion, is Budda Baker the best player he's ever seen or coached at Washington? And Coach, I mean, Washington is DBU. There's no doubt about it. And you are a defensive backs guy at heart. You're the head coach now, but that's always your soft spot. That's your group, regardless of whether you're the defensive coordinator, the head coach, the position coach, whatever. You've had a lot of defensive studs up there. Where does Budda Baker rank? Because I think the Bucs even liked him when he was coming out a couple years ago.
Yeah, as everybody can see now, special player. Is he the best player? I mean, he for his size and what he does, I mean, you're talking 5'9", 185 pounds. He plays at a level and with heart that I have not seen. And a guy that wasn't blessed with the overall height or the overall size, pound for pound, he is for sure the best defensive player that I've coached at the University of Washington. And the NFL has seen that now for the last few years with him making a Pro Bowl in special teams, making the Pro Bowl as a defensive player. He's a leader. You always know what you're going to get with him. Doesn't matter how much money you put in front of him. That guy is going out there to try to win football games for his team day in and day out. And, as much as people that, look at NFL players and they think, oh, they're just all about the money and they're all about this, not Budda Baker and not the guys that you guys have down there that are from Washington. These guys are high football character guys that want to do everything they can to make sure they're competitors. They want to win. They want to win. Yeah. And if Budda Baker ever hits free agency, you guys better go after him. Go after him with everything you got because you're going to get a monster.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I mean, he reminds me just the football character, the high football IQ, the pound for pound toughness, the ball magnet that he is. A little bit of Rondé Barber, different positions. Yep. But am I off track there?
No, you're not off track at all. I mean, that's very. He is that special of a player. I mean, you're talking about Rondé Barber, Ring of Honor, future NFL famer. So that's high regard there. But Budda Baker, he is along that track. If he keeps doing what he's doing, he's just got to get more interceptions. I text him all the time, like, Budda, you got to get more interceptions.
Yeah, and not get tracked down by DK Metcalf either, right?
Right.
Special play, right? It's so funny. Everyone talks about that was a special play by DK, but that was also a big time interception.
Oh yeah,
there against an All-Pro quarterback in a critical situation against a division rival. So, so to answer your listener's question, he is a special player. Yeah, and will go down as one of the best players in NFL history.
Yeah, and certainly one of the best Washington Huskies too. Last thing for you, Jimmy, what are your thoughts on Unpenning Potoahi? He's a player that he looks good. It's just that this Bucs defensive line is just so stacked with talent. You've got Vita Vea, you got Ndamukong Suh, you've got Steve McClendon, you've got Raheem Nunez-Roches. We call him Nacho down here. McClendon and Sue are going to be moving on probably after this year. I mean, they're in their mid-30s. I think they're going to try to get the repeat this year. And if they do, I think they're probably, moving on. And if Benning sticks around, which I think he will, he's a very talented guy. I think he can really elevate up the depth chart. But what are your thoughts on him real quick? What's kind of the scouting report? We didn't get a chance to see him last year because there's no preseason games, right? So I think that's going to be a big benefit to him this year.
Another high football character guy. He's right here from the state of Washington, Lakes High School in Tacoma. And, I think he's having the benefit of sitting behind some talented players and some guys that are all pros and learning from those guys. I think he's continued to develop just like he was still continuing to develop at Washington. He actually started out in Joe Tryon's position and then gained weight and then moved inside later in his career. So I think here's a guy that's still learning the position. And I'm sure, I know he's getting coached at a high level down there. And so I'm sure you're going to see him very active in those preseason games this year. And I think just as you mentioned, when those extremely talented players move on or, hopefully they don't get injured, but if there's an injury that happens, which that's the name of football, right? There's going to be
right.
Benning's got to go in there and he's got to take advantage of his opportunity. And I know he will. He's a talented player. High character again. So for the fans out there, you're going to get a guy that's working diligently every single day to be a great Buccaneer.
And Jimmy, with Joe Tryon, I think the Bucs are getting a future double-digit sacker, probably Yeah, well, I think he'll be the starter when Jason Pierre-Paul moves on. But this guy has got double-digit sacker right now all over him, doesn't he?
He does. There's really nothing you can't do. We dropped him in coverage. We rushed him. He would cover every now and then to cover tailbacks out of the backfield.
Yeah.
This guy's athletic as all get out. And then if you're just like right now, what you were just mentioned is maybe as a pass rush specialist early on in his career. Whew. Now, I don't know how the vets are going to like that. I know the vets usually, those are the money downs. Those vets want to be in there. They'd rather him go down on first and second down and then eat gas on the sideline, drinking some water and Gatorade.
Yeah.
Then those vets get in there and get the sacks. But that'll be interesting to see how that unfolds this fall. But everybody should be extremely excited about Joe.
Yeah.
Length, speed, high football character. They knocked out of the ballpark with that pick.
Jimmy, as always, a pleasure to talk to you. Thanks for joining us on the Pewter Report podcast. We'll let you get back to media day out there. And we're looking forward to seeing season 2 for the Washington Huskies, coached by Jimmy Lake. Hopefully you get not just 12 games. How about 14 games, right? Get in that
15.
Yep.
15.
Let's do 15.
Exactly.
Yeah.
15, that means we're in a special game. So let's
That's
go 15
right.
games. And we'll be watching you guys. Hey, go Bucs and go Dogs.
Appreciate your time,
Appreciate
Coach.
it.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right, guys.
That was really cool having Jimmy Lake join us. We're excited to always talk to him. He's been a great friend to Pewter Report. Matt, I've known him for, really when he was the assistant defensive backs coach to Raheem Morris, when Raheem was John Gruden's defensive backs coach. And then when Raheem took over as the head coach, he lured Jimmy back to become the Bucs defensive backs coach. So he's coached the likes of Rondé Barber and all of those great players in the secondary. And then is really just, as you can see, just a charismatic guy, tears it up on the recruiting scene. And
that was my first time meeting him, virtually, of course. But I mean, that was fantastic. I love that. Obviously he has an imprint on the Bucs, not just from the Washington players, but because he used to be an assistant coach. I love how it all tied together. His brother still lives here in Clearwater. That was I'm not brother. It was just a lot of fun. That was so much fun.
I'm gonna have to schedule a Pewter Report fishing day on that boat with with Jimmy Lake's brother. That's awesome. So we appreciate those thumbs up and those smashing the like button very much. Thank you guys. That's awesome. Matt, let's get back to some training camp news here. Really, it's one of those things where Jalen Darden has really made a big time first impression, right? We've written about that the last 2 days. He's had some drops. He had a false start, but boy, when this guy gets open and catches the ball, it's special, isn't it, Matt?
Yeah, without question, he needs to clean stuff up. Obviously, no one wants to see a receiver drop the ball, but Scott, when he is on, he is on. He can be an X factor to this offense. I mean, the way that he works at everything, he's extremely diligent. You could tell that he's been studying the playbook. He looks, and I've been saying this the last 2 days, he looks so comfortable out there, minus the drops.
Right.
And I know that that wouldn't make sense. Oh, well, if he's comfortable, why is he dropping it? I'm just saying the way that he's running routes, the way that once he has the ball in his hands, he's off to the races. He's good to go. He looks extremely comfortable out there. And I don't think there's a better example than, he smoked Carlton Davis, the lockdown, shutdown corner of this team. He smoked Carlton Davis down the field on a go route. Carlton had to hold on to his jersey and pretty much stretch it as far as he possibly could just to make sure it was an incomplete pass. Obviously, it was a penalty on the play. But the ways that the Bucs can use Jalen Darden and the ways that they've been using him so far, moving him around, he's going down the field, he's going across the middle. He brings so much versatility to this team. I think he has a really good chance, especially if he ends up being a returner this year. Maybe that will, leak into getting some more reps on offense. He has a strong chance to really make an impact on this offense that, as we know and everyone watching this knows, already has a ton of skilled players, but he's just another guy that could put his hand into the pile and really do big things for this team. Yeah,
and the thing is, man, it's like we haven't even seen the punt and kick return units yet, right? We haven't really practiced that, and that's really where he's going to be a starter, I believe. I think that he's going to take that job from Jaden Mickens. But I've written a couple times that he's going to maybe get around 10 plays on offense. It might even be more than that. But the thing is is it's got to come at the expense of somebody, and who are you taking reps away from? I mean, maybe Tyler Johnson. I think that's probably the likely guy, but they like Tyler Johnson. Scotty Miller, they like Scotty Miller, right?
Yeah.
So
He's got, Darden has a bright future. Obviously, he'll start out as a returner if he makes a team. We can't assume anything. He definitely has a bright future, in a season, 2 seasons, 3 seasons from now. I think he could really make some noise on this team. And he has a nose for the end zone. I think that's something we're going to see more into training camp as we get more 11-on-11s. And once the pads get on and we get into these 2-minute drills. I mean, Darden, when he's making catches, he's making highlight reel catches. Like he's leaping up into the air, coming down with it.
Right.
And
he's just got to catch the ball because he had a couple drops today. And I think that Arians gave him a pass on Sunday, right? I saw Arians chew him out twice today.
Oh, yeah.
So, and then that's good because you saw Darden, he was like really kind of down on himself, but then shook it off, but I mean, he was taking the coaching and Scott, he's a lot of time on field 1 with the starters. He has not been on field 2. And right now Antonio Brown's not practicing. I believe that's still kind of lingering from the knee. He's out there.
Right.
But same thing with OJ Howard, lingering a little bit from that Achilles injury. But if you're just joining us, Antoine Winfield, the safety, was out today with a positive COVID test. They believe it's a false positive. But the Bucs were down some safeties today, Matt. Real quick, just a 30-second recap of the safety position for those joining us today.
Yeah, so as you said, Antoine Winfield Jr. had a false positive. Therefore, he was not able to practice. Raven Green has not reported yet to training camp for personal issues. We don't know when he'll be back. And Jordan Whitehead right now is on the COVID list. He was not able to go to the White House or celebrate in the ring ceremony. So they're down at safety there. They brought Javon Hagan over to the field number 1 to work with the 1s and 2s. And obviously Mike Edwards is there. The Bucs signed Chris Cooper at safety to fill some more bodies. So it's slim pickings right now at safety. There's not too much.
There's 3 guys out. I mean, you get both starters, Whitehead, Winfield, and all of that. So we have a question from Ren Daxt about, is Darden's transition from receiver to returner as natural as Bill? We haven't seen him as a returner yet. They have not done anything special teams wise, punt and kickoff yet. What they have done over the first 2 days is they spent Sunday working on the defending fake field goals and exotic field goal formations, trick plays, if you will. And today, the Bucs were actually working on their own fake field goals with Bradley Pinion, the holder, as the quarterback. And
I don't know if we're allowed to say like who they were throwing to or stuff.
I'm going to reveal it. I mean, I'm not giving away any secrets in terms of routes or where people were lined up.
That's true.
But Pat O'Connor, special teams stud, caught a touchdown pass, at least a first down. He kept running, so we'll give him a touchdown. Same thing with Joe Tryon. So Joe Tryon, we've talked about it since the mini camp. This team expects him to play special teams, and he's out there on the field goal unit and caught a touchdown today. So Joe Tryon can do it all: sack the quarterback and get some touchdowns.
There was one other guy that ran out for a pass. I don't believe they threw it to him, but there was one other person. I don't know if you saw him, Scott. It was Nacho.
Yes.
Raheem Nunez-Roches went out for a pass, and
if he catches a touchdown in a game, it's going to get loud. I mean, that guy he loves to celebrate. He's an energetic guy to begin with.
That'll be the celebrations of all celebrations.
Yes,
if not, somehow scores.
If you remember Jerry Maguire, remember when Rod Tidwell did that 5-minute celebration after after getting knocked unconscious and scoring the touchdown and all that stuff. I mean, that's the type of thing where Nacho would be fined.
That's a great comparison. Personality-wise, he's the Rod Tidwell. Obviously, doesn't cause issues in the locker room like Rod Tidwell does. But all the positives of Rod Tidwell, that's what Nacho is on the defensive line.
And Nacho's already got his quan. He's already signed a 2-year extension. The team loves him. So that's good. So we have a question here from Matthew Sams. When can Winfield return if it's a false positive? If it's a false positive, then he can come back tomorrow's practice.
Yeah, he'll have to take another test, but if he, if it's negative, then he'll be good to go.
Yep. Okay, Matt. So what else have you seen? I think one of the biggest things people are asking about or inquiring about. These guys right here, Ronald Jones, Leonard Fournette. What have you seen so far from the amount of opportunities these guys have gotten in their performance?
Yeah, so just so everyone understands what's been going on. So day one, I was watching field one, which is, the starters, the first string, the second string. And Scott, you were over on field two with the third and fourth string. Today, we flip-flopped, and you were over on field one, and I was over on field two. What I've seen so far with Leonard Fournette and Rojo, Leonard Fournette got the initial first carries, but I've seen a lot more and this is just going off what I saw. I've seen a lot more Ronald Jones right now getting carries, getting pass opportunities. And we obviously all know the history of Rojo not being the most agile when it comes to receiving the ball. But it looks like, and you tweeted today, Scott, from what you saw about Rojo is hitting the hole with no hesitation. He's getting to the outside. Rojo, I have to say, he looks really determined, and that's not saying that Leonard Fournette isn't.
Right.
But Rojo looks like a man on a mission.
I agree.
He looks like a guy that is pissed off that he didn't get to 1,000 yards last season because he got screwed over with injuries and COVID and everything like that. Rojo looks good to go. He's been solid in his receptions that he's made so far. Now, granted, with 2 days in, there's a long way to go, and it's different schemes and everything like that.
Yep.
Just from first view, I've seen a little bit more of Rojo than Leonard Fournette. I think this is a better question maybe when the pads come on, because again, with the offensive line and defensive line, you don't know how hard they're really going.
Yeah.
But from what I've seen already, it's very promising what's going to go down with the run game, because you also got to factor in Giovanni Bernard. He's been getting he had a lot more receptions today from what I saw in the red zone. And I mean, I think at some point we're going to be talking about this running back group as a three-headed monster. They'll have to split the carries, but everyone's going to have their part. I think we saw it in the postseason. Everyone's going to have their moment to shine, and so far so good for the running backs.
I agree, and I'm with you. I think that when you look at Rojo, you know what, Matt, he got the angry runner scepter, right?
Yes.
From Kyle Brandt on Good Morning Football, and
that's right.
And so I think he wants to keep that. I think he likes being the angry runner in this team, and that's kind of how I would say he's attacking the hole, or if he's kicking it outside, it's just an incredible sense of urgency, and you saw that kind of, I think, over the second half of the season last year when he had his opportunities. He had a couple 100-yard games, and I think Rojo's going to pick up where he left off from that, rather than the end of the season where, let's face it, from being on the COVID list to breaking the pinky, then having the thigh issue against Washington. There's a little bit of a hiccup there, and Leonard Fournette, stepped in and did an admirable job, became playoff Lenny and the Lombardi Lenny.
Presidential Lenny,
touchdown.
My personal favorite.
Scoring a touchdown in all four of those postseason games. So this is a nice 1-2 punch. I said this on WDA this morning with Ronnie Night Train Lane. He was asking me about the running back competition. It's going to go down to the wire, I think. Both these guys are going to play. Bruce Arians likes having a backfield that features two runners splitting the carries. One guy is going to be the starter, right? But who's going to be the finisher? Because we've seen, dating back to Bruce Arians' first year in Tampa, 2019, Peyton Barber was the starter. But then Ronald Jones would come in after the second and third series, and what does Arians do? He goes with the hot hand.
Yes.
So just because you get the first series of handoffs, of opportunities in the passing game, doesn't mean anything. Because if you don't do anything, then it's going to be a situation where the other guy, he's going to have that opportunity. And that's how Ronald Jones took the starting job away from Peyton Barber. He just did more in the game with those opportunities. He became the hot back more often.
Yeah, and I think with Ronald Jones, too, he's very much a momentum runner. Like, I remember in the Super Bowl, and not even the drive when, he got stuffed at the goal line, but there were certain drives before Leonard Fournette had that long run for the touchdown where Rojo was racking up first down after first down, 6-yard run, 7-yard run, keep it going. And he's that momentum type of guy where, he gets a couple of yards and you see the offensive line being like, come on, Rojo, let's go. You want them to keep going. But then for Rojo's point of view, you see what Leonard Fournette did. And you can kind of see why fans might think Leonard Fournette is the incumbent, the number one guy coming into this season. Rojo might feel a bit like an underdog.
Yeah,
and
I think you're right.
A little bit, depending on who
right.
you ask. But speaking of underdogs, Scott, not the best transition, but hey, I'm working on it.
I like it.
We're really excited about this new advertiser of ours, Underdog Fantasy. I'll tell you about Underdog Fantasy. A lot of great things coming up. Underdog Fantasy is the best and easiest place to play fantasy football for big cash prizes. On Underdog Fantasy, you just draft. No need to worry about waivers, lineups, or injuries. Underdog handles it all for you. Make sure to go to UnderdogFantasy.com or download the app. Draft a season-long best ball team, and that's it. No in-season management. They're going to give you $25 when you sign up, so you could take a free shot at a $1 million grand prize in their fantasy football tournament. That's $25 for $1 million in a grand prize.
Yep.
That's right. You can get it for free, $25 in bonus cash on Underdog Fantasy if you use the code PEWTER when you make your first deposit. That's Pewter, Pewter. I'm a big fan of Underdog Fantasy because it's so easy. The app is really good. It's very slick. The website's user-friendly. It's easy to navigate through. So just do what I've been doing. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com, join a league, draft a team, and that's it. You're good for the season. Remember, go to UnderdogFantasy.com, the App Store or the Google Play Store, and sign up using the code PEWTER and get a $25 bonus in cash. Another thing, too, about Underdog, they got these props. You'll see it more in the regular season where you could pick who's going to have more yards, Mike Evans or Amari Cooper.
Like
they have
That's
all these
fun.
different props. I'm a sucker for that. I love picking like over 50 yards, over 75 yards. I remember during the postseason, I was like, okay, prop bet for this game, Mike Evans to score a touchdown against Green Bay. Bam, he scores a touchdown. So that's going to be a really awesome thing to see. So make sure you go to UnderdogFantasy.com. It's a great website. I'm really excited to use it more as the season goes on. And you can use it, too, to get ready for your fantasy football draft. So UnderdogFantasy.com. I
love Underdog Fantasy because I don't have the time to play fantasy football and keep up with all the other teams in the NFL on a week-to-week basis. I got television on the Buccaneers, of course, right? So with their best ball tournament, I love it. You draft your team in the preseason, and that's your team for the whole year. And you have a bench, and so whoever's on your bench or your starters, it doesn't matter because whoever scores the best, the best running back in your team,
score doesn't matter
every week.
First guy you drafted or the 18th guy you drafted.
Yeah.
Best score. So you have a guy, who might be a backup. Maybe someone else on that person's team gets hurt and they end up becoming a starter and going off. You reap all the benefits from that. There's a saying, set it and forget it.
That's right.
It's the case in this situation. Yeah. You don't got to worry about a thing. Just draft your team.
Flash Gordon, the same thing. I don't play fantasy football for that reason, but I'm going to be playing fantasy at Underdog Fantasy this year just for that reason. I can pick it once in August, set my team, and then let the chips fall where they may throughout the entire season. We're going to have a couple of Pewter Report signups parties coming in August, Matt, where we're going to be live on remote at a couple places. Hopefully the Pewter Report readers come out and sign up for Underdog Fantasy at our drafts. It's going to be fun. We're going to have different leagues, Pewter Report leagues. So check it out for sure. Speaking of running backs, anybody seen Sneak Vaughn? I saw him in the second field yesterday. You saw him on the second field today. This guy's just buried on the depth chart. I can kind of see the ability. I think he's better than Pope and Procise, the other guys that are on field too, Matt. But I mean, it's like he's got three veterans ahead of him in Fournette, Rojo, and now Giovanni Bernard. All three of those guys, though, are on 1-year deals. So, Keyshawn Vaughn, this is not a running back of the present. This is a running back of the future on this team, I think.
I thought he looked a little slimmer coming into camp. Yeah. I don't know if anyone else noticed that, but I thought he looked a little bit slimmer. Maybe it was the number change, and he's got the face shield going. He's trying to channel all the correct vibes because he's trying to go for like a LaDainian Tomlinson look.
Right.
Yeah. I was like, wait a second. That's not LaDainian Tomlinson. Yeah. I think, and I've said this before, Keyshawn Vaughn is going to be one of those players, and you were talking about Benning before, and he's in this category as well. He's really going to benefit from playing in a preseason this year. I think that really hurt Keyshawn last year. The fact that, He didn't get to play until the regular season started, and that's when it's all goes. Like, there's no room for mistakes or anything that. And granted, he had a decent start until the passes. Yeah, and then the Thursday night game went down, and that kind of, changed the course of his season for sure. But I think getting some more reps in the preseason, he'll be, the number one guy when the other running backs don't play. I think getting that feel, that comfortability, the familiarity with everything. He's a guy, as you said, this isn't going to be his year, barring injury, but this isn't going to be the season where Keyshawn Vaughn is I told you he was going to be something, But you know what? I think people got to understand, I'm not talking to anyone specifically, and the Bucs have been lucky with this when you see Antoine Winfield and Vita Vea and guys like that, where they come onto the scene and they're just great right away. And Tristan Wirfs. That's not the case with everyone. I think to keep it to running backs, Ronald Jones was that perfect example. It took him a while to get it going, but now he's got it going. And I think with Keyshawn Vaughn, we got to have a little bit of patience when it comes to that. All right. This season might not be a season, but there's a lot of time and space left for him to get it going. So this is a building block year for him, but don't lose faith yet on Keyshawn Vaughn.
Yeah. I don't see Ronald Jones and Fournette coming back next year. And also Giovanni Bernard. I think two out of those three might. Yeah. But if that's the case, it just elevates Keyshawn Vaughn one more rung up the depth chart. Just like wide receiver, I don't think Antonio Brown's coming back after this year. That means Tyler Johnson, Jalen Darden, you're up one more spot on that depth chart. Yeah. So I think, you mentioned no preseason last year. You're looking at even Anthony Nelson has yet to play a preseason snap. This is
insane,
year, right?
Insane, but a true fact.
Injury, his rookie year, COVID last year. And you look at last year's rookie class, Tyler Johnson, Keyshawn Vaughn, Khalil Davis, I think is going to benefit big time. Benning Potowahi, we talked to Coach Jimmy Lake about him. There's a lot of young Buccaneer players. And listen, with the veteran team coming off a Super Bowl, getting ready for a 17-game regular season and only 3 preseason games, I think you're going to see a lot of the young players, the Trasks, the Jalen Dardens, the Tyler Johnsons, the Keyshawn Vaughns. You're going to see a lot of those guys in the preseason. I think you're going to see very few reps of Tom Brady and the starters. Yeah. And maybe half in week 2 against the Titans, right? But I don't think you're going to see a lot of the veterans play. But this team's got so many young, exciting, first
that's what makes it fun.
Players. Yeah, like Joe Tryon, he's going to get a ton of playing time this preseason.
Like, you might as well get excited about watching Trask in the preseason because you're not going to see him in the regular season. Yeah. It's like it's almost like yes, it's 2 different seasons, but like the expectations, like, all right, let's see what we got with the rookie quarterback. You can treat it like it's a regular season. Exactly. Okay, is this the quarterback of the future? All right, well, if he does bad, well, we got Tom Brady. We're good for the regular season,
Yeah, and the thing too, Matt, is it's just like you've got field 1 and field 2, right? Field 1 is the 1s and the 2s, and field 2 is the 3s and the 4s. And so I think that's how the preseason is going to be. It's mostly going to be like field 2 guys. But there's so much talent on this team. One of the guys we've written about, and he really caught our eye, dating back to the minicamp, is Jerrell Adams, who is
thank you.
Ends, that all he does is get open and catch touchdown passes.
I think he's got a legit shot. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but I think this guy has a legit shot to make the team. He played very well yesterday, but I was watching him more today, being on field 2, and I was very impressed with this guy. He's going to make some noise for trying to make this team at the tight end position. Yeah. I mean, he made 2 catches today. He made multiple catches, but there was like 2 catches that really stood out to me. Granted, one was just like a warm-up drill, but the ball was overthrown. He was in the back of the end zone. He was able to get up, catch the ball, and stay in bounds. Yeah. And then later in a 7-on-7, Trask threw him the ball. It was a good pass in the corner of the end zone, but it was one of those where it was only in a spot where Adams can get it. He was able to bring it in and again keep his feet in bounds. It was not an easy play because he was like running full speed. It's not one of those where the ball's floating in there and you can adjust to it. I've seen him all over the field. I keep seeing his number everywhere. I'm really impressed with what I've seen so far. Granted, it's 2 days, but I mean, when you keep making play after play, we're going to keep talking about you. So I think this is a guy, I mean, he stood out more than Cody McElroy for sure. And McElroy, I think is a talented guy too. And obviously everyone's fighting for spots behind Gronk, Cam, and OJ.
Yeah.
But we got a little good tight end competition on our hands here.
This team is so deep at so many positions. We've talked about running back. We've talked about defensive line with Khalil Davis and Benning Potowahi, guys that hardly, are going to see the field because of the veterans ahead of them. The tight end position with no OJ out there right now, with no Cam Braid, you're getting to see a lot of Tanner Hudson, a lot of Cody McElroy, a lot of Jerrell Adams, and Adams 6'6", 256. He looks like a Bucs tight end. They got some monsters, right? I mean, the smallest guy is the newest guy, Daquan Hampton, 6'4", 225.
And he made a great one-handed catch yesterday too. So shout out to him.
Yeah, it's certainly stacked. This roster, the job that Jason Light has done, the job that John Spytek, who got promoted to vice president of pro personnel, has done, is just remarkable, because they brought in guys, not just the draft picks, not just making the trade for Jason Pierre-Paul or Gronkowski, not just luring Tom Brady to Tampa, but getting a guy like Aaron Stinney, right? Getting a guy like Ross Cockrell, those key players that can come in and play meaningful snaps and reps in games that matter, right? That's the sign of a great team, is not just how good are your starters, how many Pro Bowlers you have, how deep are you? That's the key, and this team is deep.
Yeah, I think too. Another guy you could throw in there. Granted, he's been here a little bit longer, but think about a linebacker like Kevin Minter. Devin White missed a playoff game, playoff game, and Kevin Minter went in there and held his own very well. And so, I mean, this depth is crazy. I think of the offensive line too, in the sense, and you mentioned some offensive linemen right there, but I'm thinking about it more in the sense of, they're probably going to keep 9. They're definitely keeping 8. Maybe they'll keep 9. Yeah. You already have the whole offensive line essentially established between the 5 starters and Wells and Stinney. And Hainsey obviously will be there, because you're not going to not keep a guy you drafted that early. So you have like a bunch of talented offensive linemen, numerous guys, all fighting for one position.
Yeah.
And that just speaks to the depth of this team, that you have so many guys that could probably be a solid backup in other places. Right. And there's only one spot. It's, it's kudos to the whole front office, because I mean, how many times ever since you've been covering the Bucs in the NFL, can you talk about roster competitions, positional battles, and you're not talking about like one starting position at all?
Yeah.
You don't see it.
No, and the thing is in 2002, when the Bucs won their first Super Bowl, this was a very talented Buccaneer team, right? I mean, you're talking Hall of Famers and Sapp and Lynch and Brooks and some Bucs Ring of Honor guys, Rondé Barber, Mike Allstott. Just a really talented bunch of guys. I mean, it was the Pewter Pro Bowl for a couple of years, with 6 and 7 Buccaneers in the Pro Bowl. And man, it's so stupid to think that the Bucs had one Pro Bowler last year, Jason Pierre-Paul. I mean, come on.
I know.
That's going to change this year. There's going to be about 6 guys that make the Pro Bowl from this year's team, but
they won't be playing in it anyway.
That's right. Yeah, but the thing, is this year's team is it's way deeper with talent than the 2002-2003 Buccaneer team. The 2003 Buccaneer team, it underachieved for sure, right? 7-9, didn't make the playoffs. A lot of injuries. Mike Allstott had a collision with Joe Jaravicius. Both those guys were out for the year, right? From that, Brian Kelly tore his pectoral muscle in Week 4 against the Colts on Monday Night Football. He's out for the year. John Lynch missed the last couple games with a neck injury that cost him the rest of his Bucs career. So there was a lot of injuries, a lot of turmoil. Keyshawn Johnson, John Gruden hating each other. Keyshawn essentially was suspended for the rest of the season, about halfway through. Just a lot of turmoil, but they didn't have enough talent to overcome those injuries. And I think, barring an injury to someone super special like Tom Brady, you saw even last year they overcame Vita Vea's injury, right? With Steve McClendon and Nacho going in there and still having that number 1 ranked rush defense. I just think this year's Super Bowl team is different because of the depth that we've seen so far in camp.
Yeah, and like you mentioned with McClendon, that was a in-season adjustment. So they've shown too that, okay, if they can't get it done in the preseason or in the offseason, that they will make sure they get the right moves during the season. And it just seems like whatever button they push, it all works out for them.
It does. Last question we'll take today from Long Last Leisure is it clear that only one contract will be given between Ryan Jensen and Alex Kappa for this year? Yeah. The thing is they've already got 3 offensive linemen making $10 million or more, right? Jensen's at 10. Ali Marpet's a little bit more than that. Then you've got Donovan Smith, who's making the most. But with Tristan Wirfs coming up a couple years later, he's going to be the highest paid offensive lineman in Tampa for sure. But the thing is I think that I think Jensen probably comes back. I'm not sure about Kappa, just because he's a right guard, and I think Stinney would be cheaper, and it's going to be interesting to see how much push he gives Kappa, in training camp. I think the Kappa's going to be the starter this year. I do. But I think Stinney showed last year that he's an NFL caliber starting, player in this league. And so there's going to be some options. I don't think it's going to be Hainsey. It could be, but Robert Hainsey right now he's been almost seeing all of his snaps at center. He's really going to be the backup center this year, right, man?
Yeah, he's been taking all snaps going back to minicamp. He's essentially just been taking all his reps at center. And I do agree that I think Jensen would probably come back before Kappa. Kappa seems, and this is no disrespect to him, but as you mentioned with Stinney, seems a little more replaceable than a guy like Jensen. Don't get me wrong, like Ali Marpet, Donovan Smith, they're the leaders of the offensive line. They've been there the longest, but emotionally wise, no one gets the O-line going like Ryan Jensen. And we've seen over his time with the Bucs, he's been able to curtail it, where it went from being fiery, mucking it up with the other team and getting a penalty on himself, to mixing it up with the other team, getting the penalty on the other team. And again, I don't want to keep referencing the Super. Actually, no, the Super Bowl was awesome. Bucs fans love talking about it. He drew a penalty in the Super Bowl that obviously helped out the team. So like emotionally, he's a leader in that sense. And I think Brady really enjoys working with him too. And Brady likes everything a certain way, not just with the centers, but you always see him coaching up receivers too on how to run certain routes and everything like that. So I think it'd be in the Bucs' best interest to, if you have to pick one over the other, probably go with Jensen. Yeah. But not an easy decision to make by any means.
And at the same time, you have Robert Hainsey, as long as they like his development, and he's going to see a ton of playing time at center in the preseason, right? And they're going to evaluate how good he performs, and that could have some bearing whether they bring Jensen back for 1 year or whether they don't bring him back at all,
right?
Or maybe for a couple of years, as we saw with Donovan Smith doing getting a couple of years tacked onto his contract. So, Matt, it's been an exciting first 2 days of Bucs training camp. It was a hot one today. We appreciate everybody tuning into this edition of the Pewter Report podcast. We appreciate Jimmy Lake, former Bucs defensive backs coach and head coach of the Washington Huskies, for joining us. And certainly all of you guys, we appreciate the huge traffic we've had on PewterReport.com as Bucs training camp has begun. We got about somewhere between 4 to 8 stories a day for you guys on PewterReport.com, and some more coming later tonight. So for Matt Matera, I'm Scott Reynolds. Thanks for joining us. We're going to be back tomorrow, Matt, with more training camp coverage all week long at 4 o'clock. So make sure that you're subscribed to us on our YouTube channel at Pewter Report TV. For Matt Matera, I'm Scott Reynolds. We'll see you on another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.
Day 3 of training camp going to be great tomorrow. Out.